Factors affecting price elastic demand, or PED: habits, income, necessity, time, and substitutes. The first factor affecting the PED of goods and services is the habit of the consumers. People may consume a certain good out of sheer habit. The greater the ability or chance of habit formation of the good, the more inelastic the demand of the good or service. Goods that tend to be habit-forming, like cigarettes and alcoholic beverages, tend to have a relatively inelastic demand. People who regularly drink alcohol and smoke tend to continue with the same habits, even following price increases. Thus, even if their prices increase, the quantity demand of these goods will only decrease less than proportionately. The second factor affecting PED is income level. The smaller proportion of income spent on the good, the lower the tendency of elasticity to change. When only a small proportion of income is spent on the good, there is no great effort to look for substitutes, for example, salt or pepper, hence their PED is lesser than 1. This implies that a large percentage increase in its price will not change the quantity demanded by much, as shown in the figure. On the other hand, the higher the proportion of income spent on the good, the higher the PED. This is because when expenditure forms a high proportion of income, an increase in price encourages one to look for better substitutes, goods such as cars or houses. Thus, PED is more than 1. This implies that when the price of luxury goods such as cars increases, consumers cut back on their consumption. Hence, the quantity demanded will decrease more than proportionately, resulting in a price elastic demand for cars, as shown. The degree of necessity of a good also determines its PED. Necessities such as food, clothing, and water tend to have a price inelastic demand. This is due to the limited changes in quantity demanded when prices of the good changes. For example, a household that demands a quantity of 3 bags of rice at an initial price of $5 per bag may only demand 1 more bag of rice when the price is dropped to $2 per bag. This is so, as the household does not require a higher quantity of rice despite the drop in pricing. Hence, for necessity goods, the quantity demanded will increase less than proportionately. Luxury goods, such as cars and electronic goods on the other hand, have price elastic demand. For example, a person who demands 2 luxury cars at the price of $20 each will be willing to buy 6 luxury cars when the price drops to $10. As the price of a luxury good drops, people may be more inclined to demand more of the good, as they may deem it to be more affordable. Hence, as prices change for luxury goods, quantity demanded will change more than proportionately. However, it is important to note that whether a good is a necessity depends on the income levels of the consumers. The rich, who have more disposable money, may see a good as a necessity, while the poor, with less disposable money, may see it as a luxury item. Next, time period. The longer the time period, the more price elastic the demand will be. In the long run, consumers are more receptive to price changes. When prices of the goods increases, the likelihood to change consumption habits increase as well. Also, the longer the time period, the more substitutes will be found and developed. Another factor that affects the PED is the availability of substitutes. So, how do substitutes affect PED? For example, when there is an increase in the price of product A, consumers would be more inclined to look for other products with the same functions as product A for substitution, causing demand for product A to decrease and increase in demand for substitutes. Hence, with more substitutes available, consumers will be able to swap from product A to other cheaper alternatives instead. To what extent will the PED be affected by these factors? How much would the PED be affected would then be dependent on how closely related the substitutes are to the product. The more closely the product are to each other, the more elastic the PED would be. This means that any slight change in the price of product A would result in a more than proportionate change in the demand of the other product, for this instant, product B. An example of closely related products would be brands of soft drinks, like Pepsi and Coca-Cola. Vice versa, if the substitute is not closely related to the product, a change in the price of product A will result in a less than proportionate change in the demand of product B. An example would be smartphones versus normal handphones. However, in the case whereby the substitute is completely unrelated to the product, its PED would have a value of 0, and it is also known as perfectly price inelastic. Pencils and toothbrushes are an example.